Hello, hello. I am Ben Pick, and thank you for joining me in Writing to Write, where I used to give questionable writing advice through running metaphors, but have since switched over to hosting these productivity sprints. And oh boy, I am going to be tonight working on chapter 37 and hopefully 38, but that's pretty far along, which means that by next week, I might be able to finish off an entire iteration of my fourth novel. So this will be the second time completely all the way through with editing, which is great. And that might be in time for my developmental editor to give me feedback. If not, then I'll probably be going through Pro Rain Date and just trying to clean up as many lines as I can from a grammatical standpoint and see how it goes. Pro Rain Date isn't perfect, but is definitely better than nothing. And I can always troubleshoot after the fact. So that is a whole bunch of fun. As for me, I had a pretty relaxing weekend. My wife and I hung out on Saturday. We just kind of did a low-key evening. We ordered in food and I don't know, just kind of relaxed. Then she went out for a girls' day on Sunday with her family, and it was a whole bunch of fun. And yes, I was overdue for a haircut. My hair was getting kind of I try to aim for, every 2 months would be nice. I think a month and a half is more accurate. And if it's really bad, then I just go once a month. On average, it usually ends up being about a month and a half, although I end up getting lazy and sometimes it gets closer to 2 months. I had a boy saying, yeah, I got to hang out with my dog. And I played video games all day. He just kind of hung out. It was fun. And I finished a Zelda ROM hack, so I'm done with those. And now I'm going on to Knights of the Old Republic 2, which will be really fun. I went through Knights of the Republic on a Jedi path, and now I'm just going full dark side because, well, the game is very, very broken, or the first game was very, very broken and kind of buggy, and not focusing on the lightsaber skills and focusing on like my persuasion and my charisma and all this other stuff was a different route for me. But the game isn't really built for that because they know everybody just wants to be a Jedi and have all the fun fighting things. So this time around, I am going full dark side and going to have fun with that and be just all fighty, punchy. So that is my plan for gaming. And yeah, Boone was very pleased. Boone is unconscious right now. He had to go outside. Was a warm day, but the sun's going down, so it's definitely getting colder. And yeah, this was a really just chill weekend. I got to play a bunch of games. Played a whole bunch of AoE. Yeah, it would have been Friday night. So got a few rounds there, which was a lot of fun. And hopefully I'll get a chance to play some more with that bunch later. There's a new DLC that's coming out. It's Central America focused. And I think South America focused too. Either way, there's 3 new civilizations that you can play as. Don't remember their names. I think Muisca was one of them. Talupi is another. I don't know. I usually play as, random. But I usually like playing as the Lithuanians because they are a good balanced civ with some monk focus. And they're a cap civ. So I'm just rambling at this point. The meta is more focused on infantry now, which means that the cavalry are taking a hit. But I still like playing as Lithuanians. I think there's a lot of fun potential there. Anyways, Richard, like I said, thank you for joining me. And thank you for hanging out with me tonight as we are productive, or you are going to sleep. Yeah, I know it's late. So feel free to duck off at any point. But with that in mind, let's get this whole thing underway. So it's time for the first of 3 productivity sprints, this one being 30 minutes, and then it'll be followed by 2 at 20. Oh, wow. Yeah. Very jealous of you there. This week has been, today was tough at work. Last week was tough at work. The rest of the week is going to be tough at work. I'll get over to it. I'll share some stuff in the break. And I will see you all in 30 minutes. I'm going on mute. So if you're here, Let's be productive. And if you're catching me on the replay, I'll see you in 30 minutes either way. Have fun. And welcome back, everyone. I was able to just finish a review or an edit of chapter 37. It is a bit long. It's one of the longer ones of the climax. We are at 3,216 words. The other ones are roughly in the 1,200 to 1,500 range. So it's very, very quick. And then we have this one where it's, oh boy, just a moment to slow down before things go crazy. And so 3194, but I did trim it down a little bit. So it was at 3194 words, and now it is at 3215. Okay, so I gained more words. Oh well, 3216. I'm also really proud of myself because I think one of these chapters I had 1,337. So it's a elite chapter, lead hackers and all that stuff, which is always fun because, it's fun when you can do numerology things. Hey, Miss Blogger, how's it going? Let's see. What's everyone working on? You're working on the outline for your fiction, fantasy, and contemporary paranormal romance novel with insta-love, forced proximity, and fated mate tropes. Nice. Yeah, like I said, I'm working on chapter 37. There are 40 chapters with an epilogue, so there are 41 chapters. The next chapter is going to be pretty short. I think it's only like 1,500 words. And then 40, I forget. I think that's maybe like 2,500. So this was the last big chapter before the end of my book or manuscript. But there is still a very long way to go. And yeah, things are all looking good. Let's see here. Oh, that's all good, Richard. Any words are forward progress, which is always great. But yeah, 1,000 words. That's a good productive day for me. And I don't know how you track things, but that's, like I keep saying, forward progress is always forward progress. And you are working on a project, a disaster movie book that's an expansion of an old short story as a bit of an experiment. Interesting. Is it like an actual it's going to sound so stupid because there's also like the disaster artist, which is the making of a terrible movie. But I think you're talking about an actual disaster movie like The Day After Tomorrow or some kind of natural phenomenon instead of, or honestly, even The Mist, if you want to go the Stephen King route, which I know you're a big fan of Stephen King's work. And let's see here. It's a fictionalized version of something that did happen. Okay. Fair enough. Not the disaster artist. Yes. Yes. Oh, hi, Mark. Yeah. Good times. Well, if it's anything based around recent snow events, it could be a snowpocalypse. Although the snow is finally starting to melt. Today was a really warm day. I think it hit 50s, and most of the snow on the sidewalk has melted, except for the parts where it was just like built up and heavily compacted, which is unfortunately like around street corners. All right, all right. Interesting. You do like doing your period pieces. That's the word I'm looking for. Because you just were working on one that was the late 90s, early 2000s, and it sounds like you got another 1980s going on. Yeah. It was really fun. I actually started working on the first book, Falling Through, before cell phones were really a big thing. And there were definitely a couple of points in some of the original manuscript where there were issues that need to be resolved, and a cell phone would have absolutely just taken care of everything. which means they needed to write in solutions about why they couldn't use their cell phones in a specific moment. I don't remember the exact scenes, and I probably just completely rewrote them, so it didn't matter at all. Oh, and I think they got out of the car and they couldn't find like lights or something like that, and so they just turned on the flashlight option on their phones. There's all kinds of things like that where technology advances and the story that I had taken 10 years to write, 10 plus years to write, had to evolve to accommodate updates to technology. But yeah, technology really did change very fast. I remember the dial-up connection noise all throughout elementary school and honestly into middle school too, because we had to get a satellite since they couldn't. After I moved, they couldn't get a TLS. No, whatever the connection, the wire connection to that house. So we had a satellite, which was always so much fun. So we went from dial-up to satellite, and then the internet would always go out when there was a bad storm. All types of fun stuff. Hmm. Yeah, exactly. Though, to be fair, a lot of times in some contemporary fiction, you are going into a sub basement or a concrete lined wall where it kind of makes sense to not have any signal. I mean, the extent to which it does happen is kind of excessive, but a more accurate issue would be if you're just surrounded by too many people. Because a lot of times I'm going to a football game or somewhere where there's a whole lot of people and you get nothing. So if you have too many, if you're in too popular of an area, it drops down pretty quick. And yeah, I'm always surprised where there are certain dead zones in areas. I mean, yes, it makes sense. I'm in DC, so your phone will sporadically lose signal in certain locations where it's pretty obvious there's a government building marked or unmarked. But yeah, there's also just weird places where there is no signal. Sometimes it makes sense, a lot of times it doesn't. If you're on the highway, yeah, very easy to just lose a signal when you go into the middle of nowhere. So yeah, you're right. It does feel trite in times. It also, there are legitimate reasons. It's just that, yes, every single story now needs to do that. And in fact, it's really annoying. So I'm watching a Marvel movie. I watched some old, like, what are we now? 2026. So 7 year pre-COVID, I think, cartoon, and like a bunch of other shows. And now there is a common annoying trend of describing box breathing, which it's good in isolation and it makes sense for the characters, but now that that specific verbiage is included in a lot of shows with growing popularity, and that means two things. So first of all, it's the exact same dialogue ad nauseum across different mediums, across different genres, all just doing like, here's the whole box breathing thing, and it's basically just hold your breath for 5 seconds, breathe out, hold your breath for 5 seconds, breathe out, and it box breathing, not fox breathing. And it's a way to calm down, but that has two drawbacks. One, like I said, it's the same verbiage across all mediums, which means that you break the illusion that you're watching a show when everything starts feeling the same. And then two, it means that everything is starting to now include some kind of minor plot point of mental health and just dealing with stress, which can be important and can be useful, but it's just another subplot that gets kind of thrown in. And it's like a romantic subplot where if it's not baked into the story, it just feels tacked on, and it is just a waste of time. What was I was just watching something with my wife, and I had that exact comment. I can't remember what it was. It was probably a show I forgot. It wasn't the big one that I've intentionally forgotten, but there was something after it. Oh, right. I think it was maybe Fallout. Fallout keeps having all these like bad romance subplots, which one are just the romance in those are just nothing but red flags, and two, they're extremely creepy. They don't really drive anything. They're just a way to consume time. So just like with box breathing, it's an instance where the writers just show how bad they are at writing good stories. And they're just sort of going through a checkbox and maybe telling something they personally experienced, but they're conveying it in a way which doesn't feel real and doesn't feel interesting. So every time I see box breathing in a show now, I think, wow, that is a sign of bad storytelling, bad writing. It's one of a number of things that is showing up. Let's see. I'm also watching Wonder Man, which is good, but like passably good. It's good because it's one of the Marvel shows, and it's completely relatively isolated. They do make a whole bunch of references to other things like the Mandarin and the play with all the Avengers, and there's a couple of references here and there. But the show itself, the way I describe it, I can't describe it on this channel because it involves some derogatory terminology of a sexual content, but it involves basically writers doing a an unearned victory lap. Like it is just writers going like, "Hey, remember?" Like it feels very Hollywood, and it feels very self fulfilling. If you know what I mean, you know what I mean. Um, in a way which isn't enjoyable. Like Adriana definitely likes it a lot more than I do. But every time we get to a specific scene, I'm like, oh, this is a writer who's been in that room and just wants to put themselves into the story, but there's no real, it's not interesting. It's just kind of, it's basically, I'm going to be really crude here. It's the Seinfeld of Marvel movies where there's nothing happening. It is basically a person with superpowers trying to go in for an audition while somebody else is trying to get that guy arrested. And yes, self-insert. That's one way of describing it. But it's also feels like just a writer's room that are in a circle performing acts on each other. Self-fulfilling acts. That's the best way I'm going to describe it here. Anyways, with all that out of the way, you know what? We're running late. I went off on a rant. I'm just going to do another 30-minute one. And yeah. So I'm going to finish off. I finished off chapter 37. I'm going to finish off chapter 38. Chapter 8 is 1,500 words, so I can easily do that in 30 minutes. And then I'll go back to chapter 37 for another round, where I'll then go back later this week and do another complete round of 37, 38. I'll try for 39, maybe 40. But my goal is to finish out this week, finish out this complete edit. This has 2 rounds per chapter. So that by next week, I will be going back to the entire story with the results from Pro Rating Aid. Yeah, go for it, Richard. I fully understand. It is late for you, and trust me, we all need sleep. I have Boone has been acting up and waking up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. So we're trying to get him on a more regular schedule, but that does mean that my sleep has been interrupted quite considerably for the past couple of weeks now. So we are trying to get him back on a regular schedule. I don't know. He's very particular, and I don't think he likes how near we are to the road where he can hear cars driving by, and it's very unsettling for him. So we're trying a couple of different things to experiment. But yeah, most important thing is getting good night's sleep. That's all I'll say there. And with that, I will see you all in 30. I'm going to finish off chapter 38 for the first time and go back and restart chapter 37 for the second time. So see you in 30. And welcome back. I did finish chapter 38. I started over on chapter 37, and I have a plan set up so that way I will finish off the entire book by Sunday, or including Sunday. So that way on next Monday, I can start working through Pro-Writing Aid to touch up the grammar itself instead of focusing on instead of beginning another round of edits immediately. And that is assuming that I don't get a response from my developmental editor. I think she has another week after this. Time is very relative at this point, and planning ahead has kind of just left my brain. So I think I have 2 weeks before I get back, which means I can spend next week working on Pro-Writing Aid. If my timing is off and I'm off by a week, I'll just swap those around. So that way I'll work on the developmental edit comments next Monday night, and then work on Pro-Writing Aid after I complete an iteration with the developmental edits. So we'll see how that goes. Author Yale Summers, hey, how's it going? Thank you for joining us. Lauren, always a pleasure to have you. Looks like you are editing Hunted, books 1 and 2, and working on a young adult dark academia story. Wow, that is a lot all at once. Yeah, overall, I like Pro-Writing Aid. I don't automatically replace everything that suggests. There's like 5 different rule sets that I usually focus on. A lot of them don't really apply, or because of a specific turn of phrase, or because of certain words that are kind of made up but are not made up. Like transmuted is one I have a lot of problem with in what am I using, LibreOffice. That always gets flagged. Like I have a whole bunch of words that always get flagged, and so I use Pro-Writing as kind of a guide, and then I ignore most of it. It's like it's more accurate than a security tool that I use for scanning to find vulnerabilities and assessments, because a lot of those are just 100% failure rates, and I end up doing a manual test anyways. But Pro-Writing Aid, I'd say it's between the 80 to 90 percent range, not percentile. 80-90% of the findings it gives are false positives, or just I otherwise ignore. 10% are things that I really actually review and say, you know what, you're right, Pro-Writing Aid, you got me, good job, thank you for catching that. And a lot of it I use just to check to make sure that there aren't like periods where they shouldn't be, or a lot of times when I do Control S to save and I hit it really quickly, the S, it doesn't actually save, and there's just a random hanging S in whatever I was typing. I made that mistake too many times to count. I think in the first iteration of my second book, there was definitely a hanging S in the first edition print. Now I caught that and immediately changed it, but it was too late. And so there's a couple of early prints out there that have that typo in them. But yeah, overall, I'd say, yeah, go for Pro-Writing Aid. It is worth, I think it's $90 a year. Maybe they jacked up the price, so now it's like 100. Since no, that's a tough one. Since I haven't used it in 2 years, I think I'm just kind of, actually, I don't know if I paid. I think I might have let my annual thing expire. Either way, if you're using it for 1 book a year, it's probably worth it. If you're doing any more than that, I'd say absolutely go for it. You know, $100 a year to get somebody to get a tool to look over your shoulder before you actually hire somebody out, or in this case, kind of the timelines are overlapping. Yes. Sorry, Lauren, I went off on a large rant on that, but overall, I think that Pro-Writing Aid does help a lot. It's not a foolproof solution. You still need to go like line by line to check that everything works out. There are different rule sets that it applies, and I ignore outright a bunch of them. Overall, I do think it's good. And with that, it is time for dinner. I will see you all later. Thank you for joining me. Always a pleasure. Looks like Lauren is hosting a Friday night sprint at 8 p.m. So check out her channel and join in on another writing sprint. I will see you all in a week. And I wish you the best between now and then. I don't really have it. Oh, oof. I might have a lot going on this weekend. Let's see. I have a couple of different shows. We're doing a pre-recording one of the last episodes of Self-Publishing Tips and Tricks. And then on Sunday, we have Scripting the Book, where we're talking about Precious and Push. We're comparing the book and the movie. And on Saturday, I might be having lunch with an old high school friend. So I've been trying to get a group of us together. Really, last year was my 20th reunion. It was kind of small, but a couple of my friends didn't make it. We kind of river held our way out of river hilling. And because I knew that I still went to that one, and because they weren't there, I've been trying for probably the better part of a year to get everyone together, and it's really just hard to get everyone's schedules to align. Life comes up, I fully understand, but hopefully this Saturday I'll be hanging out with a couple of old friends, so it'll be good times. And with that in mind, I'll see y'all next Monday. Have a good one, and I guess the week can only go up from here. So now that we're all productive, we have started the week off right, and I will see you all next week. No, I don't want to leave the studio. I want to end this stream. Love technical difficulties, and I will see you all later.